What screams I'm poor, but pretend I'm rich? My old roommate spent his entire financial aid refund on a Guxy belt because the security guard at the mall assumed he couldn't afford it. There is a security guard that works at a popular bar club in my city. He managed to buy an old emergency room Lambo recently. On the weekends, he will drive by the bar several times before his shift as people are lined up outside revving his engine while at the stoplight. His new thing is pulling onto the sidewalk in front of the bar, parking it, getting out, saying hi to everyone he works with, waiting for people to walk by the car so he can let them know it's his, and then leaving again, revving the engine as loud as possible on the sidewalk. He does this for about 2 hours before his shift starts at 11 or 12. If you have money and can afford nice cars, you do not need to show them off. Naming your children after luxury brands. My neighbor's dog is named Ferrari, an improvement over kids. My brother always carries a wad of cash in a money clip. He has a 100 bill on the outside, but the rest is all 1 feet. It's all for show. He has no money and lives with my parents. I used to live in a trailer park and a surprising amount of neighbors had luxury cars. Mercedes, Lexus, BMW, etc. Posting selfies posed with things that aren't yours. Pictures of you holding cash. Rental rooms. Following constantly posting stupid entrepreneur shit on Instagram. How my Dominican family fights tooth and nail to give their kids Nike or Adidas before they can even walk. Just saw 3 expensive looking cars with tires smoother than a beach ball. I have a relatively poor friend who doesn't have a TV or anything, but they go around in a several £100 tracksuit and wear fake diamond rings they bought on Wish, which he tells people are real. Used to work at a 7-Eleven. Once a month for a week this guy would come in with a rented green Cadillac and a very obvious prostitute on his arm. Would flash a wad of money while in the store and make it very specific that he wants 10 on that green Cadillac right there. Co-worker told me he does it with his SSI check. It's generally good advice, if you have a lot of money, to keep your wealth secret or at least ambiguous, else people try to take advantage of you. Most wealthy people follow that rule, or they learn it pretty quickly. So anyone trying to show wealth is either new to it or showing more than they have. Asking people on Facebook to get in on your Herbalife scheme. Bragging about how you're going to get rich from crypto, but you keep talking about a different coin every week. Bragging about how much money you have, clothes and accessories with huge logos on them. Posting pictures of new items you purchased on Instagram and stuff. Women who post a bit too often about how great it is to be your own boss and be living a plush life, and here are pictures of me by a pool wearing a sparkly swimsuit, and you too can be rich. Set your own hours, travel, and get to lounge by pools. If only you sign up with this definitely not a pyramid scheme company. Bonus points for having a glass of wine in the shot and forgetting to move the box it came in out of the shot, thus ruining the illusion that it was expensive wine. A few years back, my dad brought home one of those fancier looking square plates. He then told my mom that he wanted all of his dinners served only on this plate. We lived in a trailer park and always had cheap things for dinner, but for some reason he felt like he was special enough to only use this plate and be the only one allowed to use it too. At some point, she forgot and put his food on a different plate. He yelled at her, threw that food in the trash, and broke his special plate. Dude is poor financially and poor in his treatment of his family, so this is a pretty good answer to me. Driving an old Maserati you bought a few months ago, only to sell it in a few weeks because you're too poor for the repairs. Honestly, anyone that feels the need to openly display how much money they have by flexing designer clothes, talking about their income, showing off their car, etc., it just screams insecurity. Aside from maybe a few outliers, the only people who do this are poor or kids spending their parents' money. or 3,000 stereo and 3,000 rims on a pose beta car. I worked a minute wage job for a long time, and it was crazy to me how many of my co-workers always had the newest iPhone, an expensive Starbucks drink twice a day, and obviously expensive clothes, hair, and makeup. It just all went on credit. However, it is ridiculously expensive to live where I'm 1 million for a 1,000 square foot home built in the 1980s level expensive, and I think the apathy over knowing they will never own a home, no matter how hard they work and save, leads people to simply buy what gives them that rush of dopamine and makes their day-to-day life more enjoyable. Rent is also super expensive here, about $1,500 a month for a 1-bedroom 500 square foot place. It's hard to blame people for spending the little bit of money they have left over at the end of the month on fun things, rather than saving it. Making 45k a year, but getting a truck that's 40k off the lot. As much as some of these examples are based on shitty choices, there's also the fact that the poorer people get, the less stake they have in any kind of future or long-term thinking. That's not a critique of their intellect. It's just their reality that they are never going to be able to travel, own a home, any of the basic aspirations that used to be drilled into people as options if they worked hard. So where I might see a big TV as something that'd be nice, but I don't need one right now, they see that as being as good as life gets, watching bullshit in increasingly higher definition, because poverty doesn't have room for long-term gratification. For British people, holidays to Dubai, often the same price as going to Spain, but somehow seen as flashy and aspirational despite being a miserable hole built on slavery. Shilling online coaching on how to get rich, usually business, trading, crypto stuff, if you're a man, and MLM manifestation stuff, if you're a woman. Not that there aren't people who get rich through selling courses, not through the methods they are teaching, but the market is oversaturated. Blatant displays of trad wealth in the form of ostentatious brand names, flashy accessories, etc. A couple of genuinely rich people I know keep it very low-key. They have money and stuff like property, don't flaunt their wealth in your face, and often look dressed like Joe Average from the suburbs. I have a high school friend who is a self-proclaimed rapper. We are in our late 30s. He has LV and Burberry everything, and posts photos of his shoes, belts, sunglasses, and even face masks. He poses in front of his apartment that I know is not the best. He also has a GoFundMe for studio time. He has a few kids and I'm in touch with his first baby mama. She says his income reported to the court does not match his lifestyle. I'm hoping he has success in his career, for the kids' sake. Too many times I clean up after evictions and there is empty bottles of Grey Goose, Hennessy, expensive clothes, shoes, many things that, if they just bought cheaper stuff or nothing at all, they would have been able to pay the rent. Not entirely sure if this belongs here, but here goes. I work as a host in a small restaurant with average prices 10, 15 a plate, plus drinks, etc. Yesterday, two middle-aged women with generic Karen haircuts pulled up in a new Mercedes, came in, and immediately became outraged that we had a waiting list due to being understaffed in the middle of a lunch rush. I offered to put them on the list, and one of them pulls out her credit card, shows it to me, and assertively says, "Okay, are you going to seat us now?" I assumed that she had one of those limitless cards, which I literally couldn't care less about, and told her that it didn't matter, and she'd just have to wait. They went and stood outside, even though we had set up chairs, so people could sit while they wait, and glared at me the entire time. They kept coming in, and asking why I couldn't seat them, which I answered with the truthful answer of being terribly understaffed, as two servers and a cook had been injured in a car accident that morning. They're fine, no major injuries, but the car was totaled. Eventually, after a 20-minute wait, I call them and seat them on the patio, and they proceed to order about 80 worth of food and drinks, going so far as to pour their first round of Bloody Marys onto the ground, just to prove to the unfortunate people around them that they didn't care about the cost of their food. Then, when they were given their bill, they wait until the server goes back inside, and they run out of the patio gate, hop in their car, and drive away without paying. Unfortunately for them, Karen had decided to back into her parking space out front, with her license plate clearly visible to the outside security camera. A police report was then immediately filed by my manager. It was a good day. Too long didn't read. A couple of Karens drove up to my restaurant in a new car, flashed their credit cards at us, wasted food to prove how little they cared about money, drove away without paying their bill, and are now most likely in jail. Talking down to people in service jobs. The cashier, waiter, guy stocking the shelves is not your personal servant, and you don't yell commands at them. One of my friends comes from a generationally wealthy family who has a live-in butler. The family speaks to the butler with the utmost respect. There's a certain professionalism with the butler, doesn't get too close with the family for example. But he was not looked down upon in any way. This makes me think of The Great Gatsby. It's been a while since I've read it, but at some point they discuss the differences between those with new money and those with old money. I think that people who are overzealous in showing spending their money indicate an insecurity in their wealth. It is one sign that they may be a poor person pretending to be wealthy. This is not entirely the case, but definitely something to think about. I work at a sneaker store, and it is filled with fake designer clothes and rare sneakers. Every time I see one I make a point to greet that customer and ask where they got it. It's hilarious to watch them scramble for an answer. My aunt was what we call a Mountain William. It's a term for a hillbilly, which we are, to a degree, who has had a taste of the fine life and wants everyone to think they are rich and high society. I loved her to death. She was and is my favorite aunt. Sweetest, most generous woman I might ever meet. But her home had an air of falseness about it that shaped my view of people well into adulthood. She loved crystal, bowls, lamps, chandeliers in every room, made of crystal or fake crystal, baskets that were supposed to mimic a wicker basket, but we are woven with fake gold wire with crystals embedded aesthetically. She had fancy looking furniture, and it was probably expensive. But the fact that her massage chair was probably the most expensive thing in her whole house just enhanced that fake richness of the whole thing. Don't get me wrong. Her home was beautiful, and as a kid, I was so afraid to touch anything because it looked so nice. But it also just felt fake. So to me, surrounding yourself with grandeur like that feels fake. Consider subscribing if you enjoyed this video, and if you want to see more of Reddit Universe.